Ray Hutchinson's blood mixed with the dust of Tamaulipas as the rifle butt cracked against his skull for the third time. ¿Hablaste con los federales, viejo? The cartel's soldier wiped sweat from his forehead, leaving a streak of grime across his temple. The smell of crude oil hung thick in the desert air around the drilling platform, mixing with the metallic taste of blood flooding Ray's mouth. No, never. Ray gasped, his 60-year-old body trembling against the scorching metal of the platform deck. The sun had been merciless all day. Typical for this godforsaken corner of Mexico where American oil companies still operated under the table, where questions weren't asked and names weren't recorded. The soldier's boot connected with Ray's ribs. Once, twice. The sound echoed across the empty desert like gunshots. Mentiroso. Another kick. You think we're stupid, gringo? Ray's vision blurred. 2 decades of roughnecking had hardened his body, but age was catching up fast. His hands, scarred from decades of rig work, pressed against the burning metal grating beneath him. The platform stretched out like a monument to American greed, its derricks piercing the Mexican sky like giant crosses. 3 more soldiers emerged from the black pickup truck that had materialized from nowhere, dust clouds still settling around its wheels. Ray recognized the type. Zetas, maybe, or Gulf Cartel. Hard to tell anymore. They all looked the same when they pointed guns at your head. El Jefe wants to know who you've been talking to, the leader said in accented English. His face was a roadmap of violence, knife scars, bullet wounds, the kind of damage that came from a lifetime in the cartels. Someone's been asking questions about this operation. Ray spat blood. I work, I don't talk. The leader nodded to his men. They grabbed Ray's arms, hauling him upright. His knees buckled, but they held him steady. Professional, efficient. Last chance, viejo. FBI, DIA, CIA. The leader's voice was almost gentle now, which somehow made it worse. Or do we start cutting pieces off? Ray's hand moved instinctively to his chest pocket. The satellite phone felt warm against his palm, always warm, like it was alive. Waiting. Looks like... Ray wheezed, tasting copper and defeat. Looks like today's the day. The soldiers laughed. They didn't understand. How could they? His mind drifted to another desert, another time when death had come calling. Highway 1 outside Kandahar. The Taliban ambush that turned their convoy into a killing field. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb bleeding out in the sand, while AK-47 rounds sparked off burning Humvees around them. Ray had low-crawled 30 yards through open ground to reach his commanding officer. Webb's chest was shredded Kevlar and blood, but his grip was still strong when he pressed the satellite phone into Ray's palm. If things go completely sideways back home, if you're in real trouble? Webb's voice had been weak, a punctured lung making every word a struggle. Speed dial 1, no words, just hang up, I'll know. Sir, you're gonna be fine. Medevac's coming. Promise me. Webb's grip had tightened. Promise me, Sergeant. Ray had nodded. I promise, sir. Webb had smiled, actually smiled, as the medics loaded him onto the Black Hawk. Semper Fi, Hutchinson. I won't forget this. Now, zip-tied to drilling equipment with cartel soldiers heating a knife blade, Ray realized that promise was about to be tested. Ray's thumb found the speed dial. 1 button, 1 number, no words needed. The call connected. Silence. Then a dial tone. The leader frowned. ¿Qué hiciste? Nothing, Ray whispered. Just called in sick. The cartel soldiers were getting impatient. Ray was secured to a piece of drilling equipment. his face a swollen mess of bruises and cuts. The leader held the glowing knife blade close to Ray's cheek. "You know what this is for, gringo?" The metal radiated heat like a tiny sun. "Start with the fingers. Work our way up." Ray closed his eyes. Tried to think of something else. His daughter Sarah, safe in Houston. His ex-wife Linda, remarried and happy in Dallas. They thought he was just another broken-down vet working overseas because he couldn't handle civilian life. They weren't wrong. 17 minutes had passed since the call. The sound came from the north. Distant at first. A rhythmic thumping that could have been machinery or equipment trucks. But Ray recognized it immediately. Helicopter rotors, multiple aircraft. The cartel leader looked up, frowning. "¿Qué es eso?" The sound grew louder. Closer. The soldiers began reaching for their weapons, suddenly nervous. 3 black helicopters crested the horizon like mechanical vultures. No markings, no identification numbers. They moved with military precision, forming an attack formation that Ray recognized from his army days. "Policia!" one of the soldiers shouted. But Ray knew better. Police helicopters didn't fly like that, didn't move with that kind of coordinated lethality. The first helicopter touched down 50 yards away, rotor wash kicking up clouds of dust and debris. 8 figures in black tactical gear emerged before the skids hit the ground. No patches, no unit insignia, faces hidden behind ballistic masks. The cartel leader raised his rifle. The nearest operator put 2 suppressed round center mass before the barrel cleared its arc. The man dropped without a sound. The remaining soldiers scattered. One made it to the pickup truck before a sniper's bullet from the second helicopter punched through his skull. Another tried to use Ray as a human shield, until a third operator appeared behind him like a ghost, knife sliding between his ribs with surgical precision. The last soldier, barely 20, trembling with fear, dropped his weapon and raised his hands. The team leader walked over, calm as Sunday morning, and zip-tied him to the platform railing. Then he approached Ray. "Time to go home, Sergeant." The voice was familiar, though Ray couldn't place it. Professional, calm. The operator cut Ray's restraints with a tactical knife. "Can you walk?" Ray tested his legs. Everything hurt, but everything worked. "Yeah, I can walk." "Good. We'll have a medic look at you once we're airborne." Ray stared at the scene around him. 4 dead cartel soldiers, 1 prisoner, a military operation that had materialized from thin air in response to a single phone call. "Who are you people?" The operator's mask shifted slightly. It might have been a smile. "Friends of a friend, Sergeant. That's all you need to know." As they walked toward the helicopter, Ray noticed something that made his blood run cold. The surviving cartel soldier was crying, begging in rapid Spanish. But he wasn't begging for his life. He was begging them not to leave him alive. Ray's apartment in Corpus Christi felt smaller than he remembered. The FBI had debriefed him for 6 hours, routine questions about his work in Mexico, the cartel operation, what he'd seen. They seemed satisfied with his answers, which were mostly true. He'd told them about the kidnapping, the beating, the rescue by Mexican military forces. He hadn't mentioned the satellite phone, hadn't mentioned Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb. Some promises you kept forever. The local police had been equally uninterested. Cross-border cartel violence was DEA territory, and the DEA claimed no knowledge of any operation in Tamaulipas. As far as the official record was concerned, Ray Hutchinson had been the victim of a random crime that had resolved itself through unexplained circumstances. The oil company had paid him through his contract and terminated his employment for security reasons. Ray didn't argue. He was done with Mexico, done with overseas work, done with pretending he could outrun his past in foreign countries. He was packing when the knock came. Ray opened the door to find a man in an expensive black suit standing in the hallway. Mid-50s, silver hair, the kind of bearing that screamed military officer even in civilian clothes. He looked familiar, but Ray couldn't place him. Ray Hutchinson? Yeah. The man smiled. It was a warm smile, genuine, but there was something else underneath it. Something that made Ray's instincts prickle with warning. My name is Colonel David Morrison. I work for the Defense Intelligence Agency. I was hoping we could talk. Ray's hand moved unconsciously toward his pocket, where the satellite phone still rested. About what? About your friend Marcus Webb. The name hit Ray like a physical blow. He stepped back, suddenly aware of how exposed he was in the doorway. I don't know anyone by that name. Morrison's smile didn't waver. May I come in? This is a conversation we should have privately. Against his better judgment, Ray stepped aside. Morrison entered the apartment, his eyes scanning the sparse furnishings, the packed boxes, the careful minimalism of a man ready to disappear at a moment's notice. Nice place, Morrison said. Temporary? Everything's temporary. Ray closed the door, engaging both deadbolts. What do you want? Morrison settled into the single chair Ray owned, uninvited but comfortable. Staff Sergeant Raymond Hutchinson saved the life of Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb during a Taliban ambush outside Kandahar. Webb gave Hutchinson a satellite phone and a promise. Are we on the same page so far? Ray said nothing. 3 days ago, that phone was activated for the first time. A brief call, no word spoken, immediately disconnected. Hours later, 4 members of the Zetas cartel were found dead at an oil drilling platform in Tamaulipas. One survivor, who's currently in Mexican custody, claims they were attacked by ghosts in black helicopters. Morrison leaned forward. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? I wouldn't know. Of course not. Morrison's tone remained pleasant, conversational. But here's what's really interesting, Ray. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb died 4 years ago. Helicopter crash in Syria. Very classified operation, very closed casket funeral. Ray felt the floor shift beneath him. That's impossible. Is it? Morrison pulled out a tablet, showed Ray a photograph. A military cemetery, a headstone with Webb's name and dates. Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60. I can give you the exact GPS coordinates if you'd like to visit. Ray's mind raced. The satellite phone, the rescue, the voice that had seemed familiar, but not quite right. So, who answered your call, Ray? The question hung in the air like smoke. Ray realized he was sweating despite the apartment's air conditioning. I told you. I don't know what you're talking about. Morrison stood, straightening his jacket. Ray, I'm going to share something with you, and I need you to listen very carefully. The organization that responded to your call, they're not American military. They're not Mexican military. They're not any government entity that officially exists. He moved toward the door, then paused. They're contractors. Very expensive, very illegal contractors who specialize in off-the-books operations. The kind of operations that leave no witnesses and no paper trail. Ray's throat felt dry. What are you saying? I'm saying that someone has been monitoring that satellite phone for years, waiting for you to use it. Someone who wanted to test their new rapid response capability on a live target. Someone who needed a field trial for their unacknowledged special access program. Morrison opened the door, then looked back. The cartel's soldier they left alive? He died in Mexican custody this morning. Apparent suicide. Very convenient. Wait. Ray's voice cracked. Why are you telling me this? Morrison's smile turned cold. Because you were the test, Ray. The whole thing, your job in Mexico, the cartel operation, the kidnapping, the rescue, it was all orchestrated. You were the lab rat. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Ray alone with the truth. He pulled out the satellite phone, staring at its blank screen. For years he'd carried it, believing in a promise made by a dying man. But Webb had been dead for years. Someone else had been watching, waiting, using his loyalty as bait for something he couldn't even comprehend. Ray walked to the window, looking out at the Gulf of Mexico stretching endlessly toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, in the dark water, people were playing games with human lives, using veterans' sense of honor and brotherhood as tools in operations that existed in the shadows between governments. The satellite phone rang. Ray stared at it, his hands shaking. The caller ID showed only zeros. After 5 rings, he answered. Hello, Ray? The voice was familiar now, the same voice from the helicopter, from the rescue, but not Webb's voice. Never Webb's voice. I think it's time we met face to face. Who are you? Someone who's been taking very good care of you for the past few years. Someone who honored Marcus Webb's promise even after he was gone. Someone who believes in the bonds between soldiers, even when those soldiers work for unofficial organizations. Ray's legs gave out. He sat heavily on his couch, still holding the phone. You've been watching me. Protecting you. There's a difference. The job in Mexico was legitimate until it wasn't. The cartel operation was real, Ray. Your kidnapping was real. The threat to your life was real. Everything else? A pause. Everything else was just good business. Ray closed his eyes. What do you want from me? Same thing Webb wanted to give you years ago. A second chance, a purpose, a family that understands what you've sacrificed. I'm 60 years old, and you just survived a cartel kidnapping, helped us eliminate a security threat, and proved you still have the tactical instincts that kept you alive in Afghanistan. Age is just a number, Ray. Loyalty is forever. Through the window, Ray could see a black sedan pulling up to his apartment complex. 3 figures emerged, moving with the same professional efficiency he'd witnessed in Mexico. They're here for you, Ray. You can go with them willingly, or you can try to run. But either way, you're coming with us. The only question is whether you're joining the team or becoming a security risk. Ray understood. He'd always understood, somewhere deep down. The satellite phone hadn't been a gift. It had been a leash. Webb's promise hadn't been about friendship or loyalty. It had been recruitment. What happened to Webb? Ray asked. He tried to retire, tried to go public with some of our operations. Unfortunately, he forgot that, in our line of work, retirement is a permanent condition. The apartment door opened without a knock. The 3 figures entered. 2 men and a woman, all wearing the same black tactical gear from Mexico. They moved like dancers, each step perfectly coordinated. Welcome to the team, Sergeant Hutchinson, the voice on the phone said. Your first mission briefing starts in 1 hour. Ray looked at the operators surrounding him, then at the satellite phone in his hand. Years ago, he'd saved a man's life in Afghanistan. Today, he'd discovered that good deed had sentenced him to something far worse than death. He'd been recruited by the kind of people who turned loyalty into a weapon and honor into a trap. The black helicopters, the perfect operation, the elimination of witnesses. It had all been a job interview. And he'd passed.